Hello, this is Soundout here, and welcome back to another episode of Soundout's Toy Chest. This week's clue is, you have failed this city. If it's not obvious enough, we're taking a look at DC Collectibles Arrow. Now, this is DC Collectibles Season 2 version of Arrow. There was a Season 1 variant released in a 2-pack with Deathstroke Season 1, and I never picked that set up because I wasn't a huge fan of Arrow during Season 1, I'll be perfectly honest. But Season 2 picked up, Season 3 lowered, but all the same, we have a good Arrow figure here. Now, this is the standard release one, single-packed Arrow figure that recently came out in comic book shops and online retailers across the country. And naturally, this is probably the one most people want to pick up, so that's why I'm starting with him. I have all the Arrow and Flash figures that have released so far, and I want to take a look at all of them. And I kind of want to give them some spotlight attention, because there's some great sculpting work done here. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to tell you guys, Arrow's probably one of my least favorite of the line. And that's because he is mostly the Season 1 Arrow figure, which was the older, less articulated, less accessory-fied DC Collectibles figures. Which means this guy does feel like he's lacking in some areas. First of all, his head sculpt's decent. It's not the greatest likeness. I feel like the beard is laid on a little too thick. But then that's because it's painted, not molded in. You can see if you pull back his hood, he does have hair underneath, which, you know, helps with the head sculpt overall. And what is nice on this figure, he does have the mask as opposed to the eye paint. You can see he does have a fully sculpted head under there. There's no real way of removing the hood or pulling it back any better than that, so it's just kind of a bonus. But other than that, I mean, he's decently molded. He's got a quiver here for smaller arrows. He's got the arm arrow launcher thing he doesn't use enough. Everything's like well detailed. It's just, it feels like an older figure. Now mine is missing a quiver. I think it was supposed to have one. I don't know what happened to it. I opened this guy up and it wasn't there. So yeah, fun times. Now, my biggest complaint, like I said, was the articulation, as it's very limited. Head can't move much because of the hood. He's got an upper torso ball joint that shouldn't even exist. It doesn't do anything. He has no waist joint. You should have that instead. He's got outward shoulders, 360 shoulders, elbows, a rotation, a pivot, a wrist. He's got, like, barely any leg movement. Knees barely. These barely move. It's a lot of bare minimal articulation, which is what DC Collectibles used to do. And then they improved things, even with the Oliver Queen figure that came out earlier in this line. Remember that even though this guy is a retool, he is the 6th release in the line. And everything before him, like Deathstroke and Canary, were much better. And he even got upstaged by his good old buddy the Flash at having an even better figure. So that is kind of the big downside with him, is that the only reason to get him is because he's Arrow. And he's wearing clothes, but yeah, he's kind of weird. And it does come with a Season 2 compound bow, which is great, or a recurve bow, or whatever it is. It just has this flimsy little stretchy string attached to it, which is kind of interesting. But you can get him to hold it with this hand. His other hand is distinctly an arrow hand. You get 2 loose arrows, so you got an arrow, and you get arrows to put in a quiver that mine didn't come with, so you have failed this action figure, DC Collectibles company. But, oh well. Anyways, the thing is with this figure, he can't properly do an archery pose because, guess what? His articulation does not allow for a proper archery pose. The Oliver Queen figure can pull it off, but this guy cannot, which is sad. His name is Arrow. He should be able to do this better. It is not possible with the way they've designed him. So overall, when it comes down to the Season 2 Arrow figure, there's better Arrow Flash Connected Universe figures to get than this guy. He honestly is kind of a disappointment. In the overall scheme of, he is a retool of an old figure. That was before DC Collectibles redid their figures into high quality products that I like to buy. So, there is that. he's kind of a letdown. But I can recommend him if you want a 6-inch scale arrow. Until then, be sure to subscribe to Soundout 12 for 3 videos a week, including Model Kit Monday, Soundout's Toy Chest Thursday, and the Soundout Review Saturday. Also, be sure to check out Hirotaku.com for all your upcoming Arrow news and what the heck will go on with Season 4. And, it's nice saying goodbye.